Welcome to another episode of the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast. It's the Healthy Habits and Lifestyle Coach, Giovanni, and I help those with endometriosis and polycystic ovary syndrome reduce chronic pain, eliminate stress, and minimize irregular or heavy periods. Y'all, through my M to the third degree healing empowerment formula. Today, we got Alexis in the Good Vibe studio, y'all. I am so excited about this conversation. It's going to be a whole vibe. But y'all, if it's your first time, welcome. And if it's not, you know what time it is. Vibe with me, y'all. Welcome to the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast. Y'all. Alexis Brooks is in the building, y'all. We're thrilled to have her. She is the founder of Alexis Brooks Nutrition, an integrative women's health dietitian for over 10 years of experience. Y'all, Alexis' journey from being diagnosed with endometriosis to becoming a passionate advocate for women's health is a testament to the power of personalized nutrition and holistic care. Y'all, today, she'll share her insights on how the nourishing of your body can help manage conditions like endometriosis, polycystic ovary syndrome, and fibroids. But the most important part is addressing the root cause of these health challenges, y'all. So let's get ready to dive into an empowering conversation that will inspire you to take control of your health and make sustainable changes that lead to a more balanced and fulfilled life. Alexis, welcome to the Good Vibe studio.
Thank you. Good to be here.
How you vibing today?
I'm vibing.
All right.
The way I know how.
Girl, let's just say it. What would be one word that would pretty much describe your endometriosis journey to this day? One word.
One word. Complicated.
Ooh. Okay. Why complicated? I like this.
I say complicated because it's changed my relationship, I feel like, with everything, like my relationship with movement, with food, with self-care, my relationships with people in my life, my relationship with my career. Because of this, I actually changed, not necessarily my field, but it did change the trajectory of my career. So I would say it's complicated for that reason.
I like it. You almost make it sound like it's the Facebook relationship thing. You remember back in the day, you used to have the relationships that it's complicated. Like exactly. It's probably like the vibe. It's complicated. What would you say has been one of your biggest areas to be resilient and overcome the obstacles and challenges to make complicated something that you still can overcome?
I think part of that is there's duality to it. So this disease, it is something that's like absolutely impacted my life in negative ways, as it has for a lot of other people. But I think where I pull from that is the other side of it is now knowing that now that I've been able to move from the pain and all the implications of this disease, I'm on the other side and helping people. So that is really what gives me joy. It's actually, I believe it's part of my purpose. So even though like it's been like a really, a bad history, I can actually say that I'm grateful for it, which is odd to say. I think most people don't say they're grateful for a chronic disease or something that has caused them so much pain. But I can say I'm actually grateful because it gave me a lot of clarity. And now I'm able to give people that same clarity.
I love that. And one of the things that I love about it is if you never had a problem, it would be hard for you to find a purpose. Yes. And I think that's what brings us both here. Both of us diagnosed with endometriosis. A lot of times, all we see is a lot of the negative things, a lot of the hardships, a lot of the debilitating issues that arise around the condition, which still does. And we're able to talk more about it. We have more podcasts like the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast, a space to kind of share the journeys of strengths of those with endometriosis, polycystic ovary syndrome, fibroids, adenomyosis. So we get to make it human, and make it real. But had we not navigated through our own healing journey, and I like to call it my healing, my journey, and y'all click the link in the description of this video and check out the product, support the channel. What I like about it is we find a personalized strength and resilience that can be applied in life in a whole different way. Like, we're able to take what we're going through and transfer it into something to help other people who still might just be stuck in the pain, still stuck in the mindset that I will never get better. This pain is something I'm going to have to deal with every single day, but which is not the case. Like, and that's the whole purpose we can come and have this conversation, is to be able to empower other people with knowledge and things that they can do holistically to feel better and have a more vibrant life. So I love that you said, had I not had this problem, I wouldn't have this purpose. And this purpose has now shaped your career, shaped the relationships that you have, not only with yourself, but other people. Like, it's changed my life. And normally when you hear someone says, this thing has changed my life, you automatically think of something negative. But we wouldn't be here where we are right now had we not been having some type of experience with health or endometriosis. So, like, can you share with us what led to this purpose of focus with women's health, and particularly after your own diagnosis? And you can take us through your journey to getting up there too, because it was a fun one for you.
Right, it was fun. Yeah, I could briefly go over that. So, I started my period when I was 11, and I've had heavy periods pretty much the whole time. I wouldn't say that they were painful though until much later. So it was really a cumulative effect where I knew they were like a little bit heavy, but it didn't really seem like a big deal. Nothing crazy where like um, I wasn't missing school. And I think that was like, maybe for me at the time, that was like one of my indicators where I knew that there were girls in my class, like in elementary, middle school, high school, where they would actually miss school. And so I think a lot of times us with all kinds of conditions, we will use someone else as a barometer, like, well, it's not as bad as that person, so I'm fine. So that's what I was doing for a long time. Like, well, I never miss school, I never miss work, like it's all right. But then as
How did
I
you
got
know that your periods were heavy periods? Because sometimes people don't even realize that, because that's their norm, is a heavy period. So how did you even know that at 11 you had a heavy period?
Okay, that's a good question, because I didn't know in terms of like the definition of what I know now. Intuitively, I knew, because I knew that I would bleed through my clothes. And I remember noticing that, like, how come no one else has this problem? And I asked my friends, and like they wouldn't have the same issue. Like, I would notice that they weren't as anxious about it, and that always surprised me. Like, oh, you don't have to go to the bath. Like, you don't feel like all the time you got to go. Like, it was kind of weird. Like, so it was that sense. And again, I was still comparing myself to other people, but that's what gave me a sense of like, oh, it's probably heavy because I worry more than other people, and I have accidents more than other people. This is really random, but I think it was in high school, maybe even middle school. I remember going on like one of the major menstrual care products website, like maybe it was like Always or Kotex, something like that, because I had the inkling of like, I wonder. And I think it was because I had like they give you those little care packages as a kid, like where it's like a pad and maybe a tampon. There's like a little insert that has like info. So I think I just went to the website where it's like, learn more about periods. So I did. I remember going on the website, and this specifically stands out to me because there is a section where it's talking about like flow and like what's considered normal and all that stuff. And I remember it saying on the website that most women think that they have heavy periods, but it's not as heavy as they think. And basically said like how much, like most women only bleed like a couple of tablespoons or something like that. And it's really not that bad. And I remember after reading that, I thought like, oh, I'm exaggerating. Like I took away from that as, oh, I'm not bleeding that much. It just seems like it. Just when I sneeze, it seems like I'm going to, bleed all over myself, but it's not really going to happen, even though it was happening. But That's
I
it.
hate that for you because honestly, you're taking something from school, a kit from school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Possibly. And where you're not getting educated because we had health class, and even in
Right.
middle school, like girls had to go on one side, boys had to go on the other side. So we're separating us, but we're not even educating us on, like you said, the tablespoons of how much you should be bleeding worth of blood, what's normal, what's not. Now you're just reading something at the age that you are, and it's saying, oh, well, most people think that they are. Like they automatically planted a seed that, oh, you're just exaggerating. This is normal. You didn't even go and say, oh, okay, this is how much I'm supposed to bleed. Let me go get the spoon. Let me try this out. Let me make sure. Like you didn't do that. It was like, oh, I'm exaggerating. What I
Mm-hmm.
think is not even true when your body was already telling you, like you said, intuitively, something was off about your period. And I like that you said, and the reason why I asked that question about how did you know your periods were heavy was because we don't know, because we can't compare it to anything else, because our period is all we ever had. And so when you said I was bleeding through my clothes, I remember in 8th grade, one of my peers bleeding through her clothes when her period would come on. And it would make me more apprehensive every time. And we're already in middle school, so we're already thinking like, it's something on the back of our pants. We used to always do that. Check me. I'm about to stand up. Check
Yep.
my back. Check my back. I'm about to stand up. Check my back. You see something? Do you see something? And you're kind of like trying to bend over. I'm about to walk to the trash. Like, I don't know if
Yes.
you did that, but we used to do that all the
Absolutely.
time in middle school because
Yep.
it's like different for us. But because I used to see her get up and blood would be left in her seat, or she would go
Mm-hmm.
here and do that, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm embarrassed for her,
Yeah.
never realizing, oh, her period is heavy. Oh, I wonder if she knows that this isn't good. Like, is someone telling her, hey, you keep messing up your clothes, you have a
Mm-hmm.
heavy period, we might need to talk to like your doctor, your pediatrician, about what's actually happening. And
Yep.
so I love that you said that. So mine wasn't as random, but it made sense because I had a similar story of someone else who would bleed out their clothes, which what do we do now that you've bled out your clothes? But go ahead with your story. So already had a heavy period, 11 years old, you felt it. The marketing people tried to tell you it ain't really heavy, Alexis. There you go. Pick up right
They
here.
got me. They got me. So yeah, that was pretty much what I thought for a really long time. And then once I got into, I would say symptoms started to ramp up, but I still didn't really know what to do about it. But like college, late
Mm.
college, probably. So I'll say like, I don't know, maybe I was 21, 22. Um, that is when I started to get more symptoms. That's when I started to notice I would be like dizzy and faint, or I wouldn't faint, but I would feel faint when I'd be on my period. So that I would feel like really weak. Um, yeah, very, very weak. To where like I had difficulty standing up sometimes. So I wasn't quite, I was like on the brink maybe of fainting, but like I remember like class, this is at the point where I actually was starting to miss class, I guess. Like I remember a time I had to leave class early because I was like constantly in the bathroom because I was bleeding so much. I was nauseous, I was lightheaded, I was like super bloated, fluid retention, all that stuff. My friend's like, I think you're pregnant, because I was nauseous and like I couldn't stand and like the belly and shit. Like I'm absolutely not pregnant. It's definitely not pregnancy. Um, but, but I remember like that's when it started to like pick up. Um, and it just kind of continued from there. Some things were intermittent, some things were every cycle. So I think that's what made it difficult for me too. And I think for other people, this could be true, where if it's not happening, like you're trying to kind of track, but if it's not happening every single cycle, it sometimes seems random. So I would get like hormonal headaches and like these migraines, but it wouldn't happen every time. And so like every symptom wouldn't come every time, but I had like a wide variety of symptoms and they would come at different times. So it was a little bit more difficult for me to notice, but I really, everything came to a head during the pandemic, 2020. That's when I got sick quickly. That's when I went from like being able to work out 5, 6 times a week, like I was pretty active, to barely being able to walk within a matter of maybe, I would say 2 months. It was a pretty quick decline. I went from never having cramps or rarely having cramps to then having cramps on my period to having pelvic pain outside of my period for like a week outside of my period, and then it ended up being 2 weeks out the month, 3 weeks out the month, and then it was every day. So this also happened within a period of maybe 2 months. The headache, the sciatic pain, the developing food intolerances that I didn't have before, all sorts of symptoms. So all those things led to me. Go ahead. I feel like
Nah,
you're.
I'm listening. I want to know what were the food things, because I'm a foodie. I'm listening though.
Me too, and that was the most disappointing part. I was like, "What happened? I didn't change anything. I wasn't eating anything different, and all of a sudden, I couldn't eat a lot of foods. I still would eat. I was still eating them, but because they were, I mean, they were not like unhealthy foods either. It
What
was
were they?
like certain vegetables,
Mm.
even fruits, like just getting gassy, getting abdominal bloating. And then it got to the point where it was no matter what I ate, it didn't matter. So that's another reason why I didn't make an adjustment. I had endobelly, so I would wake up and I'd be at baseline, and by the time the afternoon or evening hit, I looked like I was 5, 6 months pregnant. Didn't matter what I was having. Um, yeah, so that was a part of it too.
I think when so March 2020 was when I had my surgery. And it was April of 2019 where I first got sick, the nauseous, like out of nowhere. Like, I don't know what's happening. Is it food poisoning? It wasn't. This is a little weird. I was thinking it was like stress induced. Like when we went to talk about, I think it was stress induced, new job, new role, toxic home environment. It was just a lot of different stuff. So we're like, maybe it's just stress and anxiety. And then when it happened again in August, it was like on the floor, couldn't get comfortable, trying to find like a cool spot. The heating pad wasn't working. The pain was just out of nowhere. I was driving to work. The pain hit again. That pelvic pain is out of this world. It hit me again, and I instantly we kind of swerved into another lane, had to get control back of the car. And I was like, okay, this is not right. Talked to my nurse practitioner. She was like, you need to go to the ER. You need imaging. You need to let them know. Go to the ER. Tell them you need to get some imaging. You don't know what's going on. You've been having a lot of pelvic pain. And that's when I got the CT scan, the ultrasound, and that's when they found a large cyst on my right ovary. And I don't know, maybe it was the rupturing of that cyst that caused some of that onset of nausea, can't get comfortable, pain out of nowhere, like what's happening to my side. But it was also March of 2020. You said 2020, all things kind of just hit the fan. For me, it was, I finally have an answer of what was going on with the pain in 2019, but I didn't have the symptoms of everyday pain. But like you said, it was an array of symptoms that happened over time. One time I think I had like a mixed drink. Instantly, didn't even have a whole drink, and I was sick, like ready to throw. I'm like, nah, college days, you can throw a few back, you can keep it going, you lit. That's just the pregame. It wasn't settling no more. That's why I was like, what foods? Mine was definitely alcohol, not even wine anymore. Automatically makes me nauseous. And then it was something else that made me kind of sick. And I was just like, this ain't it. What is happening? The bowel movement pain. That would come during my periods. And that would be out of nowhere. Cramps, horrible. This ain't it. As time got close to a diagnosis, the lower back pain. Like, I was thinking, is something wrong with my kidneys? Am I like dehydrated? Is something shutting down back here? Why is my lower back hurting so bad? Like, heating pad back there, putting other stuff back there, trying to stretch it out. I'm like, this is crazy. So it was a lot of different symptoms that I had no idea even went with endometriosis until I got up and he was like, okay, that was a lot more than I expected. It was stage 4, things were stuck together, fallopian tubes, scar tissue, had things bounded, had to take out your appendix. It was all over your bowels. Like, it was on your rectum, like it was everywhere. And I had no idea, like never even heard of endometriosis before. But to me, unlike you, and I know you're going to go through that time frame of how long it took you for a diagnosis. For me, it first started in April. In August, it was let's go get imaging, and then March, you finally have that surgery. At most, that was like 9 months. People take 9 years, 10 years, 20 years to get a diagnosis, which makes no sense. But it's like, I could not say anything. I could not let this problem not turn into a purposeful place for us to have conversation about this journey of strength, because that's what it is, Alexis. It's not just us, oh, we have endometriosis, that's it. Oh my goodness, we crying about it. No, it's we finally have a diagnosis. It makes sense of what's going on inside of our body. Now it's time to turn these things around. Now it's time for us to get empowered about how we're going to live a vibrant life despite these conditions that don't have a cure. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the vibe that we're on. So it took you how long to get a diagnosis? And then what sparked your passion to start this journey into nutrition with women's health?
I almost want to say 20 years, because from starting my, like 20 years of symptoms, we'll say, before I got diagnosed, because start my period at 11, that's when the symptoms started. And then I got diagnosed when I was 31. So 20 years of the symptoms. I think the point from when I realized, oh, this is actually not normal, or maybe I should look into this. Maybe more like 6 years. It took maybe 6 years from me approaching the first provider saying, I think I have this. I think I have endometriosis, to having a provider who me bringing it up to, and them being like, yeah, I think you have it too. Have you had an ultrasound before? And then going through the process, and then it kind of like snowballed from there. So I don't know.
So did you know somebody with endometriosis? Did you already know the signs because you did the research or what you were experiencing? Did you like document symptoms? Or where is it just like, I'm a dietitian, I'm in this space, I already know these things, I just need you to know what I think this is? Like, how did endo kind of be suspected?
The very first time I think I had, maybe over time, I had been looking up symptoms online. I did know someone who had endometriosis, and I remember thinking like that's the person I really heard about it several years before that. But I didn't think I had it, even when she was telling me the symptoms. Like, well, that sounds bad. Like, I hate to hear that.
I think I want that.
Get that, no. I remember thinking that, not quite in that way, but yeah. So it was kind of on the radar, and then as symptoms accumulated, I think that's when I was like, oh, maybe I have this. So that was that. And by the time I saw the actual provider who ended up like pushing me along the pathway and like getting me diagnosed, like 6 years later, I knew very well what the symptoms were, and I had been reading a lot of research. Like I was like 100% certain that I had it already. So I did a really good job of tracking things. Before my doctor's appointment, I wrote a list of all the symptoms that I had. I wrote the specific, how long, like I wrote the duration, how long these actual symptoms lasted. I wrote what day of my cycle it happened. I wrote like as much as I possibly could about each thing, how long it was, not just how long it lasted for, but how long, like when's the first time I ever experienced a symptom, when's the last time I experienced a symptom. So I put together this long thing, because I knew that the doctor don't have time for me. They have about 7 minutes, and I need them to see everything that I came here for, and I need some answers. I'm leaving here with answers. And it was in the middle of the pandemic. It was before anything was under control at all. And I was like, if I'm gonna leave my house to go to a medical center while all this stuff is happening, I'm gonna make it worthwhile. So yeah, it was a lot of like bringing data to the doctor, and that's also what I encourage people to do, is make sure you bring data.
I love that, because I don't think people understand how powerful it is documenting your symptoms, what that looked like, how long you had those symptoms, and bringing that into a session where not only are you advocating for your health, but you're now documenting and showing, hey, and here is my evidence. So now you can't take just what I say for lightly. So what did you say you came in for? Your stomach was just hurting? You just had some pelvic pain? Okay, that could just be anything. No, this is what I've been experiencing for how long, and this is what it looks like. I've been documented. Like, that is powerful within itself, Alexis. So I'm glad that you empower other people to do that, and that's a big thing. And I know we've talked about this with other guests before, but if you want to be taken serious, and you want a serious answer, and you want the healthcare system in this country to move on your behalf, you have to advocate and come prepared with so many different things. And for you to already be a healthcare professional and having to do all of this just to be heard, because the first time you told somebody, what did they say to you? When the first time you came to a doctor and was like, hey, I think I might have endometriosis. What was their response?
She said, yeah, you probably do. I think you do too, but there's no cure. So there's nothing we can do about it. You can either get pregnant or you can go on birth control, but there's really no options. And even if we did do the surgery to find out like the official diagnosis that you have endometriosis, there's nothing we can do. So what's the point of doing a surgery to not even get any resolution?
And how did that make you feel as a patient? And did you come in there with your documentation that time to talk to that person?
That time I did not. It had me, I guess, defeated, because I was like, oh, well, okay, so I have this disease and that's just kind of where it stops. And there's nothing else to do with that.
Alexis, talk to the defeated women that we know that's been you before, that is not getting an answer, feels like the healthcare system is not listening to them, not advocating for them, not giving them the attention they need. Talk to them right now, Alexis, and let them know what they need to do to keep their head up and keep pushing through to get the help that they need.
I would say not all providers are created equal, that even if you have seen a provider and they've given you some grim news or really have felt like they dimmed your light or made you feel discouraged about what your future is, there's hope. There's many other providers who will actually, who won't dismiss you, providers who will listen to you, and providers who are able to get incredible results and resolution to what you're experiencing, and they just may not be the right provider. So continue to advocate for yourself, ask questions, be assertive. If you need help, you could bring somebody with you. But that provider, you don't have to stay with that provider. You can shop around, you can see many. I know it's not exciting or fun to keep on having to have these conversations over and over and over again and having to explain yourself. And it can actually be, I know, re-traumatizing when you have to do those things, but just know that when you do that, and if you do it strategically, you'll be moving in the step of the right direction.
I love it. And I appreciate you for that. In addition to knowing that you're strategically moving in a direction, you're worth finding the right provider for you. I would just put a stamp on that to follow up behind Alexis. You're worth finding the provider for you. And if that takes 10, 15, 20, we've had, I think it was Natalie. She's an actual public health analyst. She works in the public health realm. She is a healthcare professional, just like Alexis is, and she still has to advocate for herself, to be heard, to get the treatment she needs, and find the right person. The right person is out there for you. You just haven't found them yet. So don't give up, because you're worth it and you deserve it. Alexis, they haven't found the right provider yet, but are there things that they can still do right now, today, to start shifting their habits and their lifestyle changes to provide them with some support?
Absolutely. You can do it. You can do it in a way that's affordable, in a way that's practical, in a way that doesn't feel like you're having to like overhaul your entire life, although there's multiple areas of your life to focus on. But of course, me and my background as a dietitian, it's with food. That's probably, out of all the habits that we have, it's the thing that we do the most is eat. Or have eating opportunities compared to other opportunities throughout the day and the week. So focusing on your food, you probably hear this often, but it's true. Anti-inflammatory food. So when I work with people, I like to not necessarily start off with like, let's remove things. I like to also tell people, hey, let's add these things in, because when we first bring in the remove, it could feel like really overwhelming. And it can also make people not want to continue, because it feels like you're actually literally removing their joy from them. And I know that there's so much wrapped into our food. Of course, it's cultural. It's we have specific preferences. There's habits that we have. There's all sorts of things that are attached to our food. So when you're removing food, yeah, you're almost removing a tradition and a part of it. People feel like you're removing a piece of them too. So I like to talk a lot about what can we include, what can we add, and maybe that you're kind of essentially crowding things out is what you could be doing essentially, ultimately. But adding in a lot of plants. Plants are so powerful. So this means adding in a ton of vegetables. Half your plate should be vegetables. If half your plate is not vegetables, what are you doing? And it doesn't have to be, there are specific vegetables that have certain properties that are helpful for us, like cruciferous vegetables. That's like kale, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. Those things have a specific, they can help us with detoxifying our estrogen, for example. But as you're including these things, just think about, just like the first step is just add more vegetables. Don't have to worry about like which ones, but first start off with adding more vegetables, more plants. When I say that, people are like, plants, but that includes, that's fruit, that's vegetables, that's even legumes, like beans, lentils, that's nuts and seeds and quinoa, wild rice, tempeh. These are all examples of plants that we can add in. Those are really high anti-inflammatory foods.
Two things. One, I absolutely love that you said once you start telling people to take certain things out of their habits of consumption in regards to their food experiences, it's a grieving process. And I like that one of the guests said, my Lyra, she talked about people have to learn how to grieve a lifestyle they used to live in order to truly embrace a new lifestyle in a way that you want to go, even if it is intentional for healing and you got to give it all you got because you want to have some changes. There still needs to be a process that addresses that grieving to the life that you used to live. So I love that it's, let's add in some more plants. Let's add in some things that are very beneficial for you. Those anti-inflammatory foods that you probably don't even know are better for you before we start saying, now let's eliminate some things or let's moderately take some things out over time, because now we're adding so many good things. We don't want that to kind of conflict with the other things that you have going on for yourself, because we want you to feel better. So I love that you said that. Two, you talked about estrogen. Let's dive just a little bit deeper in why estrogen is so important, or shifting our mindset around the functional nutrition of approaching estrogen is so important for people with endometriosis, polycystic ovary syndrome, adenomyosis, or fibroids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So specifically when it comes to endometriosis, I guess really all the ones that you mentioned, but we can have estrogen dominance. And really what that means is the relationship between estrogen and progesterone is off. So estrogen is higher than progesterone, and they work together. So they really need to be balanced off. When one changes, the other one changes. But all these conditions, they can thrive off of estrogen. So like endometriosis, for example, if we have high levels of estrogen, it can actually promote the growth of lesions and adhesions. And it's like this, it's a growing hormone. So we don't want that. we don't want our estrogen to be low either. If you speak to a menopausal woman, they'll tell you that, yeah, I wish I had a little bit more estrogen. Estrogen is great for us, but we don't want it to overpower progesterone. Think of estrogen as like the gas, and then progesterone is like the brakes. So little of both that we need. So yeah, if we have really high levels, and it can come from a variety of things. It can come from be impacted. So like I mentioned, the cruciferous vegetables can help to reduce it and keep it in check. Also, ground flax seeds are helpful for that. It can come from places outside of food. So we have endocrine disrupting chemicals, which are all sorts of chemicals that we can find in literally everything. We can find it in like BPA. We can find it in plastic bottles. We can find it in your, maybe, hopefully not, but maybe your favorite lotion, maybe your fragrance that you like to spray on yourself, maybe the household cleaning items that you use. What these things can do is actually regulate your estrogen, and it could, even if everything else is fine, it can actually have an effect on your body of estrogen hundreds of times stronger than the estrogen that your body produces. So it can come from a lot of areas, but bottom line is that estrogen promotes the growth.
Thank you. I appreciate you for taking us down there. And when you talked about like flax seeds helping with that, I was like, ooh, I'll toss some flax seeds into like my soaked oatmeal. So I'll take like sprouted oats and like some coconut milk, and I'll just do like hemp seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds, some raw agave, some cinnamon, and I just shake it all up in my little glass jar, and I just like let that settle. And like now I just be like eating it all of it. I'll be like, oh, this thing is good. But I like that you said that, and I know a lot of people talk about different flax seeds, chia seeds, hemp seeds, and the functional nutritional benefits of those things, because so many people get caught up on needing meat. And I'm not quite sure where you are with how, like if you're more plant-based, if you're just anti-inflammatory. Right now I'm on a high raw journey. And so I'm really being mindful because I don't want to be nutrient deficient in anything on where I'm consuming, getting my protein, getting in the zinc, the magnesium, like all of those things are really important to me. So I'm glad that you said it. I just want to give somebody an idea how they can get those flax seeds in, even if you just do it in a smoothie. But there's ways to get these things that are very beneficial to you, and especially if you do have any of these conditions that we're talking about, to limit those types of to eliminate those types of conditions or issues when it comes to the hormones that feed off of it. And so I want to kind of get into the root cause and health issues. So you just started talking about environmental factors like toxins, but also stress, right? Distress, we could say, because there's good stress and bad stress. So let's say distress, and how that contributes to conditions like endometriosis. What are some of the steps that people can take to kind of mitigate or limit these issues?
Okay, so stress. I'm glad that you mentioned that you made a distinction between the different types of stress, because yeah, we do need stress. It's healthy, but it's that chronic stress that really gets us in trouble. So I first and foremost would say mental health therapy. I think that is a really important piece, especially for a person who is struggling with a chronic disease that's not necessarily going to go away. In the sense of we do all these things that we're talking about, like the nutrition, the lifestyle stuff, and we can put it in remission, I would say. But if we were to be like, oh, I'm good, I can go back to eating this way, or I don't have to work, I don't have to move my body so much. Like if we pull these pieces out, the symptoms will also come back too. So in that sense, so yeah, mental health, prayer, meditation, yoga, movement in general, any kind of movement that you enjoy. Nature has shown to improve our stress levels too. You don't have to even be out in nature for long. It could be like a simple nature walk for a few minutes. If you do it for longer, that's great. But just being out in nature is innately good for us. Our body is made to move. Our bodies are actually made to be outside.
Oh, sorry, you said your bodies were made to move. I was like, come through, Alexis. Good.
Yeah. So I would say those are some key things. I think a lot of people, when they're feeling the most stress, it's probably during a time when one of the tiers is falling apart. Maybe it's a time where you're not sleeping as well, or you're not moving as much, or maybe something's going on, like your nutrition has changed. But I say that because it gives us a lot of resilience when we have these things in place. So stress doesn't necessarily ever go away, but I like to think of it as building up your resilience, because we know that stress is going to come, but what condition will you be in when the stress comes? But as you attack these different areas and support these different areas, you'll have a stronger foundations for when that stress comes, versus it's here and now you're like, like, what do I do now? How do I reduce it? If you are proactive about it and you already have these things in place, it won't rock your world so much.
And what are some of those ways people can build resilience, Alexis?
I would say that the movement piece, the community is a big one too. So community can be in a lot of different things. It could be your friend group. It could be your family. It could be maybe neighbors. It could be if you belong to a church or like a religious institution, that it could be that. If you belong to a community group that is centered around something, that's community too. So I think that is actually extremely powerful. And I think people really realized the power of community during the pandemic when we were isolated. So I would say that's a really big piece. Like we lose a lot of resilience when we're in isolation. Um, Another thing I would say, sleep. Sleep is underrated. And when we are not sleeping well or enough, your resilience is not there. Everything bothers you. You wake up bothered. You just wake up, you're just bothered always. But when you have a better, like good quality sleep, and enough sleep, so enough is 7 to 9 hours. That's optimal. We need at least 6.5. That's like the bare minimum. But 7 to 9 is the optimal window, and within that window, you will know what feels right for you. Sometimes we need maybe the top of that window, depending on what's going on, if we're healing or if we're not feeling well or things like that, we might need a little bit more. Or other days we might feel like we can operate with closer to like the 7. But yeah, getting enough and making sure it's good quality. So that means we're not waking up every hour. That means it's not taking us a long time to fall asleep. Means we're sleeping in a dark room. We're not falling asleep to our TV. We're not on our phone scrolling and then we decide to fall asleep. We're actually having good sleep hygiene so that we can have good quality sleep.
Big ones for me was the community and sleep hygiene. Y'all, in the description of this video is a link about community, what it is that you're looking for in regards to a community, what you're interested in. Go through that form, that interest form, and really identify what it is that you would want to get out of a community. A lot of times people go into a community looking for a community to serve you, when you should go to communities with intentions and things that you know you need to work on or you want to grow in, areas you want to grow in. So in the description of this video, click the link that talks about community and identify what are some of those areas that you are really looking for and gravitate. Become aware within yourself in regards to that, because that's a very powerful piece. Because like she said, Alexis said, you get more stressed and unresilient when you're in isolation. I don't know if unresilient is a word, but it's a word today, and we're going to work with it because you got the context. And then sleep hygiene. And you said it's underrated. People don't emphasize enough the power of sleep and how important sleep is to your well-being. And I think because there's been people saying, oh, you're so lazy because you sleep, or you want to sleep for a longer time, and they equate how much you get done or productivity to how you sleep or how often you sleep or how much you sleep. And you heard Alexis say that should be between 7 to 9 hours. You might be someone who needs 9 hours to be adequate and to be your most vibrant self. So if you're just saying, well, I could barely get 6, you might need to start prioritizing and figuring out how to manage your time a little bit better, because time is your most valuable resource. And so everyone gets 24 hours in a day. What does that look like for you? Can you give yourself 8 hours to just rest in a dark space? And I like that you talked about it, not going to sleep to the TV, not going to sleep, with a whole bunch of lights on in the room, like really allowing your body to rest. Because during that rest period, and I know Alexis can break this down a little bit more as a dietitian, but during that rest period, your body is really working for you and on your behalf. But it needs you to be in a state of rest so it can do the things that you are doing. So, Alexis, how important is rest in regards to your diet and digestion? And it kind of makes me take you back just a little bit when we were talking about food that didn't settle with you. How important is gut health as well in regards to that? Because some people will eat 10, 11 o'clock at night. Talk a little bit about that, because I know it's hard for some people, especially if they work at night, to get a better routine in when it comes to nutrition.
This is a big one. So it's major. So think about it. Our bodies are working 24/7, always. You have voluntary actions like moving your hands and your arms and all that stuff, but you also have these involuntary actions that your body is doing, which is digestion. You're not thinking about it. You're not telling your body, hey, make sure you digest my lunch today. It's doing these things for you. Your heart is beating automatically. So your body is doing so much work for you. But when we sleep, it's the time when our body is able to be in a restful state, to where it's then not having to, it's keeping up, of course, with our underlying um, autonomic functions, like where our hearts are still beating, all that stuff still happening, but it's everything just like comes way down, so your body is able to focus on specific systems throughout the night, and that's how we're able to get the healing and the restoration. But if without that, um, we are not fully recovering from all the things that we're doing during the day. Even if you think you're not doing a lot, even if you think, well, I'm just sitting all day, your body's still doing a lot. You're still, like, our brains are doing all kinds of processing and all sorts of things that our body does in the background. The enzymatic functions that happening. There's a ton of things that are happening in the background, even if it doesn't feel like it or seem like it. So sleep is pivotal. Um, there's actually, you're probably familiar with this, like Chinese medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, like the body clock, where there are specific times of the day where our body, and I don't have it memorized, but there are specific times of the day where our body focuses its functions on specific organs. So actually, in traditional Chinese medicine, it's recommended that we're asleep around 10 p.m. and you wake up past 6 a.m. or something in that neighborhood. But the hours between 10 p.m. and midnight, a lot of times it's anchoring midnight. So the more hours you get to sleep before midnight, you get like those hours those hours count as like double. So if you're not going to bed until midnight, you're missing out on specific functions that happen during those hours when you're supposed to be sleeping. I don't know if you heard that before, but it's quite interesting. And I can say for myself and other people that I've worked with, they notice a difference, even if they're getting 8 hours. Midnight to 8 is 8 hours, and so is 10 to 6. And like we can get 8 hours still, but you could feel the difference with where you get your 8 hours or 7 to 9, whatever that is for you. Um, Sorry, I just wanted to put that out there. We do not want to eat too close to the time we're going to sleep, because it's just kind of sitting there. It will still digest, but it's really counterintuitive for your body, because you're asking your body to do this, to do a you're asking it to do an action during a time where it's trying to be more passive. It's trying to focus on healing and restoring and all that stuff, but you're trying to get it to break down your food. Those things don't really work together, so it's not able to do both optimally. So that's when you start getting maybe the heartburn or the bloating, or feeling like you have indigestion, or feeling weird in the morning when you wake up the next morning. Or it also impacts your sleep quality too, because it's like really slowing down. It's, instead of, again, that restoration, it's focusing on a more active pathway instead of more passive.
I appreciate that background and that layout, and I just hope that people understand the importance of that. That's why I really wanted you to break that down from your level as a dietitian, because it's important. It's one thing to say you need sleep, and it's one thing to say why you sleep your body is working. It's another to say how important and why it needs to do the work that it needs to do. And when you don't allow it to do that work, what problems it causes for you. And so I really wanted you to break that down. So while you were talking about the Chinese body clock, so I looked it up while you're talking, so we can give it to them, because we're not expert in everything, but we're learning here together. So it says from 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. is working on the lungs. So respiration, oxygenating the blood, and detoxification. And I'm guessing this is just, how it goes throughout the day. 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. is your large intestines. So elimination of waste and detoxification. What does that sound like? When we get up, we should be going to the what?
Woo!
There you go. And then from 7 to 9 a.m. is the stomach. So now we're starting to look into digestion and absorption of food. 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. is the spleen, nutrient absorption. And then 11 a.m. to 1 is your heart. 1 to 3 is the small intestines. 3 to 5 is the bladder. 5 to 7 is the kidney. 7 to 9 is the pericardium, protecting the heart. 9 to 11 is the triple burner. Have you ever heard of the triple burner? That almost sounds like a burger. You ever heard of the triple burner? So
No,
the
it does
triple
sound
burner
like
is the yang organ, and it regulates the body's temperature, metabolism, and organ function. So the suggestions is wind down for the day, preparing for sleep between 9 and 11 as the body begins to shift into a state of rest. So that's the triple burner. And then 11 to 1 is the gallbladder. And lastly, 1 to 3 a.m. is the liver. So I never heard of the traditional Chinese body clock. Thank you for allowing me to be today's years old, Alexis, with looking at this body clock. But the biggest thing I would take away from that, y'all, is the fact that your body is always at work in some way, shape, form, or fashion for you. And so what I need you to do, or what I empower you to do, and Alexis is here to empower you to do, is to take control of what it is and how you show up for your body each and every day, because your body is not working. You never heard any off periods through that 24-hour clock that the body is working for you. So give your body what it needs. It needs movement. It needs functional nutrition. It needs you to manage your distress and eliminate it as much as possible. Build up your resiliency and be mindful of yourself. Love yourself. Take care of yourself. Make yourself a priority. And so that is a big piece of what we're doing in order to help ourselves have a vibrant life despite endometriosis, polycystic ovary syndrome, fibroids, adenomyosis. Even though there's not a cure, you hold the power in your hand to care for you. With no cure, you still have care. How do you show up and care for you? And that's a big piece. And so thank you, Alexis, for breaking that down, talking about the intersection of diet and mental health. But I kind of want to get into just a little bit for women who are just beginning their health journey. What are some practical tips you have for implementing sustainable dietary and lifestyle changes to support long-term health? And the first was go ahead and start adding in plants. What's next after they start adding in plants, Alexis?
The next one is to balance your blood sugars. And I would, I don't know if this is stepping ahead, but forget the fad diets. Like that shouldn't even be, that shouldn't even be a part of what you're thinking to do for your body. We're not eliminating any kind of food group. Balancing your blood sugar actually means that you're incorporating multiple food groups at the same time. So you can use the PFF method, which is protein, fat, and fiber, meaning that every single meal has to have some component of protein. So we talked about some plant-based proteins like the legumes, the beans, the lentils, the nuts, the seeds, tempeh, different forms of organic soy products can be protein sources. If you're having animal-based, that could be chicken, that could be fish or seafood. Those are protein sources as well. And then we've got fat. We want to have some fat in there. So avocado, olives, avocado oil, olive oil, nuts and seeds. We mentioned the flax seeds. Maybe you enjoy hemp seeds, sesame seeds, sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds. These are all great. So having some sort of fat involved. And then we want to have fiber. So fiber can be those veggies that we talked about. Fiber can also be a lot of the other foods that we mentioned, but I would say the veggies would be the fiber that we're including here. Produce could be we keep it general. So like fruit would also be a fiber too. But we need to make sure that we have all these components, the protein, the fat, and the fiber, to balance our blood sugars. Why do we care about balancing our blood sugars? I don't have diabetes. I don't have prediabetes. I don't have insulin resistance. You should still care about balancing your blood sugars because it's a downward effect for literally everything else in your body when your blood sugars aren't balanced. When your blood sugars have like these huge spikes or they have like really big dips, this could be your body sees it as a stressor. So your cortisol will go up. You probably heard it as your stress hormone. It goes up when your blood sugars are not balanced. Also, speaking specifically with PCOS, when our blood sugars are all over the place, it causes our ovaries to produce more testosterone. And guess what? That's an androgen. That is where we can get some of those symptoms like the oily skin, the acne, the hair loss, the hair growth in places that we don't want it. So this all goes back to balancing your blood sugar. It can also bring up your estrogen levels too, if your blood sugar is all over the place. So it's a foundational piece to help literally everything. So I know that's like a big umbrella thing that a lot of things kind of fit under that, but I would say begin to shift your attention on looking at your plate and seeing, is this balanced or is it all carb? Or is it half carb and a little bit of protein, or, make sure it has all the things.
I like it, and I appreciate that expert insight. One, start with the plants. Two, balance your blood sugar, and the cheat code is the PFF: protein, fat, and fiber. And fiber is a big thing for me, because when I have enough fiber, and I'm focused on making sure I have fiber from different sources throughout my day, I have easier bowel movements that don't cause me much pain. And if painful bowel was one of my main symptoms for endometriosis, that's a big thing for me. And when I am fiber rich, I mean, when I'm getting in like 2 apples and I'm getting in the oatmeal, like I told you, with all of those, the chia seeds, the hemp seeds, and the flax seeds, all 3 seeds are in my oatmeal, my soaked oats. And I like that because I prefer my soaked oats over like cooked oatmeal. I just like it for some reason. It just goes down easier for me, and it's just a vibe. And I don't know. I just like it. I never was like a hot oatmeal type of girl, but knowing that I'm getting good fiber out of that meal for me, and it's almost like a dessert, because I get a little
Yeah.
raw agave in there and the cinnamon. It's like, I'm not feeling guilty eating this in the morning, like after my watermelon or after like a fruit and vegetable juice. Like, it feels good to me. And so I like that you broke that down. The thing that I love the most, Alexis, about the PFF and the way you gave examples is I took this, I took a functional nutrition course, to get the certification, because I was all into, like, food is a big thing for me. I am a foodie and I love it. I also know that since I've been on this high raw journey, and it's 160 something days, I believe now, of being on this raw journey, I know the power it is to change your relationship with food. And you can still have a positive relationship with food, but when you're positively eating food that's good for you and tastes good, it just makes you feel so much better navigating through life. Because again, now I'm nourishing a body that works for me 24/7, And
Yes.
so when you said protein and you said beans, which beans don't do well for me, but then you said nuts and seeds, I just told you all the seeds that I already put in my oatmeal. So like, protein, check. But then when you said fat, you brought the nuts and the seeds back there. It's fat too. It's like the
Mhm.
simplest ingredients cover multiple things. And people are like, well, I need my protein. I need to get that healthy fat. And it'd be like, sometimes that's the same ingredient. Like, you already have that covered. Like, you're complicating this. You're thinking that you need so much more when you're already there. Sometimes if you keep it simple, it allows you to be able to build up momentum to really make a lifestyle out of it. And so when you're trying to think of all of these crazy things to put together in these wild combos, because you want this amazing experience, it's like, you're not there yet. You got to crawl before you walk before you run. You know what I'm saying? And you see all of these influencers who already been in the kitchen longer than you, put together these lavish meals. Slow your roll so you can stay in the game, baby. Slow your roll so you can stay in the game. But
Yep.
then when you have that fiber, there go the fruit right there. The fruit and the vegetables. If you got that in a juice already, or you got that in the smoothie, we in there, baby. We are there. There go your PFF with balancing your sugar. And you
Mhm.
didn't even make it as complicated to say, only do like low glycemic fruits, only do the berries, y'all, only do this, only do that, because we also know, and the veggies with the fiber, you got your leafy greens, you got your spinach, you got your kale,
Yeah.
which people might be already eating on their salad. They might already be putting in their juice or their smoothie. So again, it's this universal approach that you get all of this good stuff from food.
Mhm.
You get it from food. And so I'm grateful that you took them through that. And I'm glad I could tell them some things that they can go ahead and just get in your system, because you might already be doing it, sis, bro, human. Just make sure everybody's included. You might already be getting all of these things in, and you might feel like, oh, this is just so overwhelming. Keep it simple. You're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing it. Make it the simplest things, and you got this. Like, I just want you to know you got this. You got this. It might be hard, but you can do hard things because you've done hard things before.
Mm-hmm.
You got this. So, Alexis, what's your empowering message to leave the listeners with about the importance of nourishing their bodies and addressing the root causes of their health challenges? Is one to say, I got this condition, that condition, this over here too, pre-diabetic, this run in my family. The root cause of all of that. What's your empowering message to let them know to address the root cause?
Let your body be the guide. So no one else is the expert on your body but you. And anytime you're in the room with someone else, if it's a provider, someone who, whatever, something medical provider where that's their expertise, you're also an expert. They're not able to know exactly what's going on in your body, how you feel, how different things sit with you. You're the one who knows that. So be empowered in knowing that you are the operator of your body. Literally, you control what goes in, what comes out. you have so much control and autonomy over what's going on with your body. So sit with that power, and be sure to use the tool of listening to all of it. When you feel good, asking, wow, what did I do? I feel so good today. That pain, like this pain is gone, or it's down. Like, what have I done? Did I sleep more? Have I been moving more? Did I change something in my food? Being curious. And on the flip side, doing the same if you notice things are off. If you notice, why do I have this headache? Why do I feel like I'm not as energized today? This pain, whatever the thing is, listening is one of the most important things that you can do. Just being aware in your body, and being at one with your body, knowing it's a bi-directional relationship.
About what? Say that part. About what?
A bi-directional relationship, so it goes both ways.
True. It does. It does. I like that. My biggest thing that I love with what you said, and I love two things: the tool of listening. One, you're listening to us right now. You heard what we've been saying. You can take what we've been saying, do further research. That is what you're supposed to do, because our healing is our journey. What we've been able to do has been based on us. But she said the tool of listening to your body, identifying when you feel good, you feel great, you feel vibrant. But how sway? Why? What could have contributed to all of that? Then when you don't feel good, say what now? Why is that? Who were you around? What environment were you around? What did you eat? Like, all of those things matter. Holistically, everything around you, in you matter. And so those things still play a role in your well-being. So figuring out and tuning in to the tool of listening was, I like that one, Alexis. I like them, because that's why when you hit me on that last one, I would say what? You dropping it like that? But then you said, let your body be the guide. You're going to be influenced by so many other people, so many other people's journeys, what they believe, the direction they're going down. There's so many different pathways to healing. So you own your healing journey. And we're just here to empower you along your way, but let you know that that journey is worth it. And you're worth showing up for it and never giving up on it. And so I love the fact that you said, let your body be the guide. Don't let it be the thing that you're upset with. And a lot of times people, once you get a diagnosis and you hear that there's no cure, you're mad at yourself. You're mad at your body. You resent your body. You cannot heal in a body that you resent. You have to get back to a place where you love yourself and you find ways to help yourself thrive despite what it is that it's going through, because you're going through with it. And so I just want you to own that, because once you own it, you can take this thing to a whole nother level. We're sitting here because we had problems. Our problems became identified with different diagnoses. We're still finding purpose in that. Alexis left her career job and went all in on this nutrition because that's what she was passionate about. And she knew that life was getting challenging, but not too challenging for her to not be a pillar in her community and be a force to be reckoned with when it comes to helping other people, because she was helping herself and she still is helping herself. And so that is why we're here. So Alexis, last two questions and we're going to wrap it up. Give some information, some tips, some suggestions for the girl dads, the male role models, the partners and spouses of people who are experiencing endometriosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome like symptoms, if they don't necessarily have, the diagnosis just quite yet. Even if you're 11-year-old Alexis to 22-year-old Alexis in college with a boo thing, give them some insight on how they can be supportive while to those of us going through the things that we're going through that can sometimes be misunderstood.
Ooh, I think it goes back to that listening piece, because I think that sometimes when you are dealing with something like this, you don't necessarily want somebody to tell you what to do. You don't necessarily want someone else's advice, like, oh, just take this, or have you done this or that? Or sometimes those things can be a little frustrating to hear. So I think listening, being someone who is available, I think sometimes just being there, listening, asking, how can I support you, is probably one of the most simplest things you could possibly do, instead of assuming how you might be helpful, because your assumption may not be helpful. And sometimes your assumption could be harmful, even if you have good intentions. So I would say asking, how can I support you? How can I serve you? I think also, I guess since we were talking a lot about nutrition, I think it'd be powerful for people if they're willing to do something with that person. So whether it be like if they're making a diet change, or they're adding something into their, whatever the thing is related to nutrition, if there's someone in your corner who is willing to do it with you, I think that's really helpful and powerful. And even if it's not in the nutrition realm, if it's in the like the movement piece or the mental health, whatever it is, being the person that's like, I see you're going through this, we can do this together, like I'm gonna do it too. And the good news about this, like all these things that we're talking about, is anybody can implement these things, whether you have these conditions or not. Like these are all really healthy things to implement. So I think maybe that could just be another way, is walking the path with that person.
I love it. I love it. Walking the path with that person. Yes. Come through, support, community. Then brought that thing back around again. Walking the path with that person as you utilize the tool of listening. I got it, Alexis. I got it. Last question. If you could have a meal with any historical figure, who would it be and what would y'all eat?
Oh my gosh. Any historical figure? Ooh. Okay. Well, because this is top of mind, and I actually love her anyways, but Michelle Obama, we would have a meal together. What would we have? Man, I'm a foodie too, so I'm like going through all the different types of foods that I like. What am I in the mood for? So many foods. Okay, actually, what I'm craving in this moment is a curry.
Okay.
So maybe like like some sort of like chickpea curry. It's all spiced up, maybe over a bed of rice. Um, yeah, some sort of curry sounds good to me right now.
I like it. And why Michelle Obama?
Michelle Obama, she's a queen. Like she's such an inspirational person. Just thinking about the adversity that she's experienced in her life and how she's been able to turn that and make so much beauty out of it and impact so many lives from that. She is such a great speaker. I think she is brilliant. And she's humble. Like I feel like there's a lot of people who could have been in the rooms that she's been in, have the knowledge that she has, the intelligence that she has, and all the gifts and skills, and they cannot have that sort of humility that she has. But I love that she has all these things wrapped into one package. And I feel like
Yeah.
if I like sat and ate with her, like she wouldn't feel like she's too cute to not like to actually eat something like and
It's
have a
like some pea curry with all the spices. Let it drip. We got napkins. Go
yeah.
ahead. I got you. Well, it's been an absolute amazing having you in the Good Vibe studio today, Alexis. Thank you for coming through and just not only owning your story, sharing your story, but empowering other people through the expertise that you've now been able to gather because of your problem that is now your purpose for support and healing. So thank you for that. Y'all, all of Alexis' information is in the description of this video. Do not forget to click on the link to get your M to the third degree healing empowerment. Click it. That's mindset, mindful eating, and movement. Those are my absolute pillars for a holistic healing journey. We want you to be empowered along the way. There are things you can do until you get the professional help that you are seeking. There are things that you can do today that can help you before you find the person that you want to help or could help you even further. All right. So make sure you take action. Click the link in the description. And if you got any value of this, drop in the description of this video if you're on YouTube, your takeaway, like anything that you took away, anything that you plan to now go look up because we brought it to your light. Let us know in the comments. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and make sure you share this with somebody that you love and share this with somebody that you believe could be the person that can walk with you on this path to change and healing. And if you're on your favorite podcast distribution platform, don't only just turn us up, but make sure that you follow the podcast and leave a rating. Leave a rating. Y'all, I thank y'all for your support, but most importantly, thanks for vibing with us. We out.